Welcome to the Mind Cut series. You're in for another deep dive where we sift through the information you've shared to extract the crucial insights, making you instantly more informed.
And today, we're tackling a really practical area, how we can become more conscious of the signals we're sending out, in our daily interactions, both personally and professionally. It's really about understanding how to influence how people perceive us and ultimately build stronger connections.
Absolutely. And we've got a fantastic collection of sources you send over, everything from social dynamics research to expert interviews on communication and charisma.
Yeah, quite a range.
So our mission today is, it's to go way beyond the usual superficial advice. We want to really dig into actionable strategies.
Right, specific tools.
Exactly. Things to help you navigate those awkward moments, make genuinely better first impressions, understand those social cues we often miss, and build real, genuine bonds.
Okay, so let's start with something fundamental. First impressions. We all make them, and they have a surprisingly powerful and lasting impact.
They really do. And one of the immediate takeaways from the material is this idea that we can actually take control of how we want to be seen. Do you want people to see you as friendly, likable, competent? The cues we send, consciously or not, directly influence how others think about us.
And maybe more importantly, how they treat us based on that perception.
Yeah, that's key.
What's fascinating here is this, what's your word?
Yeah.
Exercise from the sources. It's a really powerful way to become more intentional.
How does that work?
Well, you think about the words someone might currently use to describe their first impression of you. Maybe even on a bad day, what word comes up.
Okay.
Then you contrast that with your ideal word, the quality you want to project when someone first meets you.
Ah, right. So it's not just wishing, it's seeing the gap.
Exactly. Understanding the gap between perception and intention. And the research highlights just how much we communicate nonverbally. Apparently, there are something like 97 distinct social cues.
97.
Yeah. And the challenge is we often operate on autopilot,
Right.
So we miss or misinterpret a huge number of them.
That makes sense. We're not always paying close attention.
And this brings up something called signal amplification bias. Basically, we tend to think our intentions, our signals, are way more obvious than they actually are.
Oh, right. I feel friendly, so surely everyone sees it.
Precisely. There was this example in the research about flirtation signals. Women, on average, needed to display around 29 different cues within 10 minutes just to get the message across that they might be interested.
29 in 10 minutes. That really underlines it. We think we're being obvious, but
the other person might be getting nothing or something completely different. It shows how much we undersignal sometimes.
So, okay, how do we bridge that gap then? How do we signal more effectively, especially if we want to connect?
Well, a key aspect, according to the sources, is signaling availability. If you want to connect, you need to show you're open to it. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you do that without being awkward?
It's often subtle things. Think about those initial glances. Maybe a sweeping look around the room, brief eye contact, that little down and up look.
Okay.
Small, genuine smiles are huge. And even things like self-touch, gently touching your hair, your neck, maybe your lips, it can unconsciously signal openness, maybe even release pheromones.
Interesting. And what about actually saying something like that first, hey?
Oh, the simple hey. It seems basic, but the research points to the huge role of vocal tone right in those first milliseconds.
Milliseconds, really?
Yeah, like within the first 200 milliseconds, we're making snap judgments about confidence based on voice.
Wow. Okay, so how do you make your hey sound confident and not nervous?
The key seems to be using the lower end of your natural vocal range. You can actually practice this.
Well, how?
Consciously try speaking in a slightly lower register. One tip was to focus on speaking on your out-breath. It helps relax the vocal cords.
Ah, okay. So speaking as you breathe out.
Exactly. The lower tone tends to read as confidence, whereas a higher, maybe breathier tone can accidentally signal nervousness.
So it's about finding that grounded part of your voice, not faking it. Projecting genuine confidence, not anxiety, right, from word one.
Right, which kind of leads us perfectly into the next bit.
Yeah.
How do we move beyond just that first impression, that first, hey, and build something more?
More real, yeah. Deeper connections.
The sources really hammer home the importance of having intention in our conversation.
Intention. Meaning what exactly?
Meaning not just falling back on those autopilot socially scripted questions. You know the ones. What do you do? Where are you from?
Yeah. They can be such a dead end sometimes.
Exactly. They often don't lead anywhere interesting. So the material suggests using a context cue instead.
Context cue.
Yeah, finding something in your immediate shared environment to comment on or ask about.
Well, like at a party, instead of what do you do, maybe how do you know the host?
Or wow, this music is great. Or comment on the food, the event itself, something you both are experiencing right there.
That makes sense. It's a natural starting point.
And the goal, really, in those early exchanges is to find that Me Too moment.
The Me Too moment.
Yeah, those shared interests or experiences or even just perspectives. Finding that common ground that creates a little spark of connection. One source called it thread theory.
Thread theory. I like that. Like you're weaving connections.
Exactly. Each shared point is another thread. And what's really interesting is the research mentioned about popularity, especially with kids.
Oh, yeah. What did it say?
It wasn't about being the coolest or most outgoing kid. The most popular kids were actually the ones who genuinely liked the most other kids. They had the longest list of people they liked.
Huh. So it flips the script from trying to be interesting
To being genuinely interested in other people, showing that liking.
That playground example is great, too. You know, do you like dinosaurs? Yeah, me too. Let's be friends.
Ah, yeah. That directness. We kind of lose that as adults, don't we?
We really do. We get so indirect.
And that might be why just giving compliments doesn't always build connection. Sometimes they feel nice, but other times they can create weird power dynamics or feel a bit empty.
Yeah, I get that. Or like you're just saying it to be nice.
Right. It's often more effective to compliment something shared. I loved your point about X. I was thinking something similar, or acknowledging effort, not just like something they were born with.
Okay, so we've started a conversation, maybe found a Me Too moment, but what happens when you're stuck? Or you just need to leave gracefully?
Ah, the graceful exit. An art form. The sources talked about nonverbal cues first.
Like what?
Subtly angling your body, your toes towards the exit. Gradually making less eye contact. Glancing towards where you need to go.
Okay, the nonverbal escape plan.
Exactly. And verbally, you can ask about their future plans. Something like, so what are you up to next? Or any fun plans for the rest of the evening?
And that naturally opens the door to
wishing them well with those plans and making your departure. Oh, cool. Well, hope you have a great time doing that. I should probably go find my friends.
Smooth. I like it. What about steering conversations you're in?
Yeah, there were some neat nonverbal tips there, too, like the triple nod.
The trickle nod.
Apparently, a slow, deliberate triple nod encourages the other person to keep talking, expand on their point.
Okay.
Whereas a faster triple nod can signal, okay, got it, message received, ready to move on.
Huh. It's like a silent direction.
Kind of. It's part of that whole decode and code internalized cycle of communication the sources mentioned. We're constantly decoding signals, encoding our own, and internalizing the meaning.
And if we undersignal warmth, even if we don't mean to.
Right. It could easily be decoded as coldness or disinterest. And negative cues like eye rolls or scoffing. They actually have a physiological impact on the receiver.
Wow. So trust your gut if you feel that negative vibe from someone.
Definitely. Your body often picks up on those subtle negative signals.
Okay, so we're sending signals, reading signals. How do we get better at telling if a connection is real? Spotting inauthenticity or even manipulation?
Well, one key thing the sources stressed is observing people in different situations, not just the curated coffee date,
Right, like that car challenge idea mentioned. See how they handle traffic or something unexpected.
Exactly. Getting them off script reveals more. Also, look for incongruence when the words don't match the body language.
Like saying yes, but subtly shaking their head no.
Yeah, or that fake smile that doesn't reach the eyes, doesn't engage the upper cheek muscles. Those little inconsistencies can be red flags.
And again, listening to your gut, that feeling of unease.
Absolutely. Your intuition is processing a lot of those subtle cues. There was even research mentioned about potentially smelling fear and sweat.
Whoa! Okay, that's wild.
But it points to how attuned we can be. It's also important to distinguish genuine connection from just people-pleasing.
What's the difference there?
People-pleasing is often about prioritizing being liked above everything else, sometimes even sacrificing your own competence or values. True connection, based on Princeton research mentioned, balances warmth and competence. You can be warm without being a doormat.
That makes sense. Warmth and competence. Both are needed.
And watch out for those fake Me Too moments. Someone just agreeing with everything to seem agreeable, but it doesn't feel genuine.
Yeah, that feels off.
Being authentic means it's okay to disagree sometimes. One source even talked about being upfront about your allergies in relationships, things you genuinely dislike. It sets boundaries and attracts people who appreciate the real you.
Allergies. I like that framing. What about distinguishing charisma from something more manipulative, like narcissism? They can seem similar at first, right?
They can. Both might project warmth, competence, confidence initially, but the sources suggest narcissism often reveals itself over time. Through patterns like playing the victim consistently or creating unnecessary drama and conflict, it comes back to observing behavior across different contexts and over a longer period. Don't just rely on that initial charm.
Got it. Observation over time is key. This is all super useful. Now let's shift slightly. How do personality types like introverts, extroverts, and ambiverts fit into all this communication stuff?
Ah, yes. Understanding this is really fundamental for smoother interactions. So introverts generally get energy from being alone, right? They might appreciate advance notice for social things or brainstorming sessions.
Okay, give them time to prepare mentally.
Exactly. Extroverts, conversely, tend to get energized by being around people. They might thrive on more spontaneous interaction.
And ambiverts, they're in the middle.
Pretty much. They're like social chameleons, often able to dial their energy up or down depending on the situation and the people. But they still need recharge time, often alone. The challenge for them can sometimes be ambivalence in relationships. Their energy needs fluctuate.
Makes sense. And this ties into how friendships evolve too, doesn't it? Sometimes you grow together, sometimes.
Sometimes you grow apart, and that's okay. The sources emphasized being open to forming new connections based on where you are now, finding those current Me Too moments, shared life stages, rather than just holding on to connections that don't really fit anymore.
Yeah, seeking out people who align with your current self. Good point.
Okay, let's talk about making conversations not just okay, but actually engaging. Memorable, even.
You mean getting beyond the boring question?
Exactly. The power of asking better questions. And interestingly, the connection to dopamine.
Dopamine
Yeah.
in conversation.
Yeah. When you ask questions that spark novelty or excitement, like working on anything exciting lately, instead of just what's new, it can actually trigger a dopamine release in the other person's brain.
So asking interesting questions literally makes the conversation feel better and more memorable?
That's the idea. Dopamine is linked to motivation and memory. So more engaging questions lead to better feelings and stronger recall. One tip, though. If you ask an exciting question, have your own answer ready too.
Ah, good point. Be ready to share your own excitement.
And this idea of building a story toolbox came up.
Story toolbox.
Having a few interesting anecdotes or experiences ready to share when appropriate, it makes you a more engaging conversationalist. Asking, what are you learning lately, is another great one. It invites connection around growth.
I like that. It's forward-looking.
Even simple things in teams, like starting meetings with tell me something good, can totally shift the energy, create those positive moments.
It takes a bit of courage, though, doesn't it, to break those social scripts?
It definitely takes social courage. But the payoff is potentially much deeper connection. It's about seeing those moments as opportunities, not risks.
Absolutely. Okay, one last area I really wanted to touch on, based on the sources, is the specific perception challenges women sometimes face, particularly in the workplace.
Yes, this is crucial. The research highlights a persistent double standard. Assertiveness in women can get labeled as bossy, directness as argumentative. Even having a bad day can be seen as moody in ways it might not for men.
Right, it's like navigating this very narrow lane, not too friendly, not too dominant.
Exactly. The key takeaway from the sources seem to be focusing on consistently signaling both warmth and competence. Those are the two core traits that build trust and respect, regardless of gender. But striking that balance can feel trickier for women due to these biases.
Warmth and competence, that seems to be a recurring theme.
It really is. And that practical exercise mentioned, using AI tools to analyze your LinkedIn profile or emails for perceived warmth and competence, that's a fascinating, concrete way to get feedback.
Yeah, objective data on how you're coming across could be really illuminating.
So wrapping up this deep dive, we've really covered a lot. From consciously managing our signals to shape how people see us.
To moving beyond just surface chat and actually building real bonds.
And understanding all those subtle cues, discerning authenticity, navigating different personality types, it all plays a part in effective communication, personally and professionally.
And ultimately, the idea is that by understanding and, more importantly, applying these insights, you can feel more empowered. You can move past feeling underestimated and really take the reins in your interactions.
Couldn't have said it better. So here's a final thought for you to chew on this week. What's the first word that jumps out when you think about the impression you currently make. Just be honest with yourself.
Okay.
And then, with just one small intentional shift you could try in your signal, maybe your vocal tone, maybe a context cue, to move a tiny bit closer to your ideal impression word this week.
And maybe. What kind of Me Too moment will you intentionally look for or try to create in your next conversation?